Hello and welcome back to Taking Back Saturday, a Happy Buyers Club podcast where we break down the real estate market each and every Thursday or Friday to help home buyers build confidence, follow a process and hopefully buy really happy. I'm your host, Chayse Jones, and joining me as he does each and every week, each and every weekday, weekend, it's
long
my
weekend.
Mate, Sam Hunter. How are you?
Very well, mate. Thank you. Good to be back after the Easter long weekend, of which you wouldn't believe it, but we spent the entire long weekend
Team
together
building
with our families. Yeah, there were some lessons learnt. Parenting is a lot easier when you've got other parents around and the kids can behave themselves for 5-6 minutes at a time, and then it's a lot harder when everyone loses their shit at the
That's
same
it.
time.
Parenting is hard. Camping is also quite hard, but somehow there is some moments there in between that make it all worthwhile.
I'm describing it as 60% super wholesome, good, clean family fun, and 40% why did we do this to ourselves? But you know what? I'm thinking about doing it again in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, listen. We'll reserve my commitment for the next camping trip until further notice. Sam, we are back on the Tuesday following Easter Monday doing this recording. It's another short week. This one is with 3 working days into another public holiday. I imagine that stock will probably be a little slow again this week. Agents will have spoken with their vendors about, hey, let's get a clean run of weekends. Not that this Saturday I think is going to be too much of a stopper, but people will have taken extended leave to bank up as many days in a row of holidays as possible. Likely that come maybe next week, we might see a bit of a run into May and beyond for stock.
Definitely. I think Southeast Queensland, Brisbane, if you want to call it that, it runs a bit of a different cycle to almost the rest of Australia in that we have a pretty solid winter selling season because we're just coming into like peak Brisbane weather.
So good.
Everybody knows that the twilight shots at 4:30 are going to look magnificent. If you want to do your normal daytime photography, it looks great because there's a chance of a cloudless sky for the next sort of 4 or 5 months. Whereas everybody else slows down through the winter, we tend to maintain a pretty solid level. But this period, coupled with now an election weekend as well, is always the most frustrating time for a buyer. And it's somewhat of a frustrating time for a seller as well, because if you've made the decision to sell, you are itching to get on the market, to get it done, to move on. And your agent's probably told you to wait it out for at least another week, right? And from a buying perspective, you're sitting there, it's Boxing Day, you're watching a cricket and you go, we're buying a house this year. And now it's got to effectively May and maybe you haven't bought a house. We put a poll out after the long weekend. We had 4 days off the internet, which was super weird, but also quite refreshing. We had some creative thoughts, I think, because we were so out of the business the first time. Shout out to the guy that bailed me up in the camp talk. It's been like, my wife follows you on Instagram. That was weird, but cool at the same time. All of those people who were ready to buy are now frustrated because there's been a period of time accentuated by Cyclone Alfred where there just has felt like there's not a lot on the market. This poll said there was, I think, 10% of people that responded to that poll, and there was a few hundred people that responded, said they bought a house on the weekend. Everybody else said, sweet fuck all happened on the
absolutely
weekend.
Nothing.
Or they took the weekend off, and that's really representative of this time of year. There's just been an extra 2 weeks bolted onto that because we had an extreme weather event. It'll feel like it's really busy again in a couple of weeks' time, and being organised for that will just set you up to make the most, like be in for winter, start having the fire pit in your backyard rather than having to go camping. But just keep the faith for a little bit longer. There will be more things on realestate.com. They'll be so beautifully photographed because of the way the skies looked over the last few weeks, that it will feel like everybody's back out looking again. But yeah, it'll get there.
Yeah, a huge shout out to Brisbane winter. Like, just great stuff. And looking forward to many clear, dry, but cool days to come. I don't think that election Saturday is necessarily going to be a speed bump on the radar. I think most people are early voters, postal voting, particularly those that are in real estate mode.
Yeah, or family mode. Like, democracy sausage aside, nobody likes lining up at the polls on a Saturday. as we record this on Tuesday, the 22nd of April, early voting's open now. So go out and sort your life out a week early, and then you don't have to worry about it on Saturday. You can actually get to those, 8:15 to 10:15 a.m. open homes.
And who says this podcast isn't helpful? Now, speaking of clear minds, this is what happens when you give me 4 days away from my phone and some, bit of rope as to what this podcast was going to be today. Today's theme for the podcast is 5 lessons we learned from camping that apply to buying real estate. Okay, so bear with me. This might be the last time that I'm given the reins for what the topic of the podcast is. But first lesson learned, location is everything.
For sure.
Now, our campsite, and I will preface this, guys, I was a first-time camper on the weekend, okay? So everything, just to remember that's the top-down view. Location is everything. Beautiful spot. We had a nice little set of 4 lots with all our 4 families all lined up next to each other, backed onto a bayou, which looked lovely. What it meant, though, was that mosquitoes were prevalent.
In early mornings and early evenings, each of our children would have had 5 to 10 mosquitoes around them at any one time, and they've all come back looking like they've got measles because they've got bites all over their faces because it was the only thing that was covered. But yeah, I think we talked about this. I remember when we had Jess Hardwick, the architect, on, and we said to her, what would be your one non-negotiable? She was like, aspect. Make sure your property's facing in the right direction. And I reckon when we all seemed to lob into the campsite at the same time after a trek up from Brisbane, we stood around for 20 minutes being like,
"Geez, it's hot.
Where do we want to put the tents?" Because we were really aware of where the sun was going to be in the afternoon, where we'd all be knackered from swimming all day, where we wanted to go and find shade to have a nap, where the babies would need to actually be inside the tent having a sleep through the day. So location really is everything, and where the sun comes up and the sun goes down and where it shines all day is really important, not just when you're camping, but when you're buying a house as well. And I think that was really time well spent. It was 20 minutes further to a beer, 20 minutes further to a swim, 20 minutes further to a bushwalk, but actually we set it up so that everyone was, Mozzie's aside, red belly black snake in our campsite on day one, on hour one aside, was pretty comfy for the next 3.5 days.
Yeah, I mean the thing is about camping is that you can orient the orientation of your tent as you want. You can't just pick your house up and start spinning it around to match the sun. I mean the reason why I wanted this one to be the first one is because location is in real estate one of the very few variables that just cannot change, and it does a lot of heavy lifting, whether that be the suburb that it's in, the street that it's on. We've had plenty of people reach out to us over the last few months who are sellers, who have expressed their concerns about potentially selling main road properties or properties that are in things that map for flood zones.
Have an overland flow path in the backyard that, even though it doesn't touch the house, is this going to be a problem?
And that's the thing, and we always say to them that it might not necessarily affect your sale price. What it may affect, though, is the number of people willing to even consider that property.
Correct.
Because of the street that it's on or the fact that it maps for certain objections that people are just not open to. Invariably, that may affect sale price. So location is everything. Do your research, which brings me to number 2. Do your research. Ask questions ahead of time. As a first-time camper, there were plenty of things that I didn't know about camping, campsites, things that you can do, things that you can't do. And I think this is the same with real estate. If you're going at it for the first time, ask questions ahead of time. Am I allowed to do this? What's the expectation here? How do I go about doing that? So I think that, there is a lot of similarities between camping and real estate purchasing.
For sure. It's a bit like mowing a lawn or changing a tyre. There's an assumption that you kind of know what to do. And then the first time you have to change a tyre, you're like, holy shit, what have I got to do here? Unless someone has actually shown you the way. It's the same thing. Like when you put your tent up for the first, I don't know about you, but did you put your tent up in your backyard before you then came camping?
Yes, I did.
100%. I have a tent that I've used many times, and then this time around, it broke. And I had to figure out how to put a tent up with a arm bent around the wrong way. And it took some questioning, and it took 4 fairly capable, grown men to be like,
that's very kind of you.
She'll be right. You. Yeah, 3 and Chayse, very capable grown men to just be like, she'll be right. We'll fix it when we get home. I think don't make any assumptions. Buy a house, if it's your first time, if it's your second time, it's your 5th time. you can't know too much. And I don't think you'll ever know it all. Like, we do this all day, every day, and claim at least to be professionals at it. And we still will openly admit that we don't know everything. But hopefully we do ask all the dumb questions every single time for every single property, on market or off market. And then we try and use the answers to those dumb questions to find the context, to find the hidden meaning, to find the motivations. And that's, I think, what sets us up for success, or certainly sets us up for less disappointment, right? Like, I think that's one of the things that people struggle with most is there's more bad surprises than good surprises. And most of the time, that's because there weren't just enough questions asked up front. And if you can't get the agent on the phone, they don't reply to your texts, ask them at the open home, bail them up. They're not just there to take your name and phone number, ask you to take your shoes off and hand out a brochure. They're there to answer your questions. So come armed with them, and it will make all the difference whether you are buying or whether you're walking away.
100%. And not making assumptions about what this property is. Like, make sure that every single property has a foundation of information that's which you've built that property profile on each and every time. All right, number 3, be prepared. As a first-time camper, it felt a lot like being a first home buyer, in the sense that it was just extremely overwhelming. Even just the preparation, like the packing, all that sort of stuff. And I'm assuming that, okay, I'm going to go on a limb here. I'm guessing you have a checklist, right?
It's a shared Apple note called camping, and it's just the same tick boxes unticked and then ticked again when we're like packing the car, unpacking the car, all that sort of stuff. We still forgot stuff though.
It is essential. And guess what? You will go to an inspection to inspect a property, and you are going to have a checklist that you've probably written out of the 15 things that you want to check. You will invariably miss some. You will get better and better at it though. Just like I hope that I will one day get better and better at camping, preparing for camping, packing down camping, all that sort of stuff. But giving yourself every opportunity to not miss things is extremely important. So write that list, even though it might seem silly to be like, hey, check the hot water system, check the water pressure, use my compass on my Apple Watch to check what the aspect is from the living space. All that sort of stuff will invariably help you get better and better at it each and every time. Those checklists can also include questions that you haven't had answered to date. Write them down though. Like, you can never be too prepared. You can never seem too over prepared. Like, you're always going to benefit from writing stuff down and executing on that list.
For sure. I think memory is one of the first things that goes away when you feel pressure. And just having a record of it faced this way. This was the colour of the walls that we asked, or whatever it is. This was when the last termite inspection was done. This was when the renovation was done. These are all the questions you might want to ask, right? Having that there, again, helps you build confidence to make that great offer, or to walk away because you didn't like the answers that you got and you didn't have to remember them after you've seen 5 or 6 houses along the day and you're just feeling a bit houseblind. I think people assume that what real estate is you lob up at an open home, you give your name, you walk around the house, you don't open anything, you don't touch and feel anything, you don't check really anything at all. And again, I'll relate this back to camping in a second. But it is, you're buying somewhere to live, so use that 20 minutes that you're there to almost live there, open the drawers up, right? When we went camping, we put our tent up a week before just to make sure that, because of all the rain that we've had and it's stored underneath our house, to make sure the tent wasn't moldy, right? So that's us getting prepared to make sure that we knew where we were going to go and live. How do you relate that back to real estate? Turn the shower on.
How do you relate that? Go and set up a tent in the backyard of the property that you're considering buying.
Don't do that. But turn the shower on, flush the loos, open the drawers. Get a sense for what it's like, because the last thing that you want to do is go to an open home, think you love the house, go to another open home, fall in love even more, make an offer, buy it, go into contract, do your building and pest inspection, have a pre-settlement inspection, pick up the keys, move in, turn the shower on, and hate it. So learn that from day one. And if you still want to buy the house, know that you're buying a new shower head, or you're getting your galvanized pipes relayed into something that your water pressure is going to improve. But give yourself the best opportunity to have better surprises, or to understand what's happening, rather than just being perennially disappointed with the things that you could have checked before you bought the house.
Definitely. Instead of just like moving it in your mind straight away, like with camping, like learning how to camp before you go camping is essential. So learning how to research, learning how to inspect, learning how to offer and purchase a property ahead of actually doing it is going to set you up for way better decisions and way less bad surprises.
And in my case, charge the camp lights before you go. Don't just assume that they're charged. Pack a chopping board and pack some scissors.
Nice one. Yep. Packing scissors.
I'm going to write that down for next time.
Number 4. Beware of neighbours. Now, Sam did, spoiler alert, this one at the top. But on day 1, we hadn't even set up all the tents as yet. No. We had a little surprise visitor out the back in the bayou from a red-bellied black snake.
For sure.
Way to spark panic into the mums, excitement in the children. Where's the snake? Can we see it?
Yeah.
Where's it going? Well, we're going to keep eyes on that thing. As long as we can see it, I'm okay with it. We're in a national park, so it wasn't much we could do with it. We couldn't give it the scissors treatment. It had to just go along its way and hope that we were making enough noise that it was not going to come back anytime soon.
We were stoked with the goannas. We were happy with kangaroos, but, little a red belly black snake was almost a step too far for some of us, particularly when we were throwing sticks into this like creek, and I was like, I'm gonna go and find a big stick, and I was like, whoa, there's a deadly snake 3 meters away from our kids. That's not a big stick. Let's get out of here. We're going home.
So similarly, when you are inspecting properties, similar to a national park, you can't just shoo the neighbours away.
For sure.
Or do anything to the neighbours.
Maybe you can.
Maybe.
We'll shoot a few neighbours off in our time.
So when you are inspecting a property, make sure you give yourself time, whether it's on the inspection day or in the days prior or days after, afternoon of, to take in the neighbourhood as well. Now, you can't necessarily judge a book by its cover, but you probably should. Doing a lap of the street, what does it feel like? What are the surrounding properties like? Are there abandoned cars in the front yard? Are people taking on work? Are they renovating? Are they knocking down? Are they rebuilding? That is going to give you a sense for that community, as will the local shops. So not as much beware your neighbours, but it's more understand your neighbourhood.
Yeah, be aware of your neighbours. A trick that you can do if you don't want to sort of go and stalk each of the neighbours is just look at the house, like houses bordering what you might want to buy. It's the same thing in a block of units. Go and look at, so on realestate.com or property.com.au, you can type in any address and you can see the photos of that place if it was listed in the last 25 years. You can see its sale history, all that sort of stuff. And that will tell you when it was last sold, what was it sold for, what did the photos look, who did that family who sold it look like? Because technically houses kind of recycle the same kind of people. Families grow up in a house, they then sold to a young family to grow up in the house, who then sells it to another young family to grow up in that house, etc. And you can get a sense for if that property was sold in the last 5 years, chances are it was sold to a pretty cashed up investor or an owner occupier. It would have, if it's been there for 40 years, you're probably going to have older neighbours potentially. Without going and knocking on doors and being like, hello, I'd just like to meet you before I make my $1.8 million offer on the house next door. And, you're a big reason of that. It just gives you a sense.
No pressure.
Yeah. Well, who are you living next door to? And again, that might help you build confidence, which is kind of what this game is all about, right? Not necessarily stalk the people, but you can get a sense for the people by stalking the property history.
Yep, add that to your to-do list. Add that to your checklist. Sense check the neighbours and neighbourhood. All right, last one. Last lesson learnt from camping. Have a great team around you. Now, I just off the top, it wasn't just Sam and I camping together with our families. We had other friends with us as well.
Particularly one very capable friend.
And these are the guys that I lent on, obviously, a lot with, not having brought my own marquee, only bringing one table. Really, shirking my responsibilities for the entire group. But having a team of experienced people around me who had done it before and that could help and assist and guide along the way was invaluable, and it made my 3 days of camping really enjoyable. I'll say it. It was enjoyable. I had a great time. We survived. It was no apartment on the beach, I'll tell you that, but it was pretty good. Now, how this relates back to real estate is having great people around you to advise, guide, steer you in the right direction are invaluable, particularly when it's not just a 3-day camping trip at stake. It is potentially, a 5, 10, 15-year decision that you're making, both financially and for you as a shelter ongoing for your family. So whether that team involves a buyer's agent, a selling agent, a mortgage broker, or a solicitor, they're all people that making sure that you select the right one and asking them the right questions ahead of time is going to set you up for making fantastic decisions moving forward.
100%. It is definitely, you want to have people around you who have been there and done that. And you said this to a recent client of ours who was thinking about who to pick for their selling agent. You want to have people around you that you can have a tough conversation with, and people that you'll actually listen to their advice and their opinion, not just yes people who are like, yeah, definitely do that, or absolutely not, walk away from that. Like, real estate sucks. Setting up and packing down camping sucks, right? But there are these moments of joy throughout the process, and it's made it all worthwhile if you can lean on somebody for support about how to do it sooner, better, cleaner, neater, tidier, whatever it might be, right? So that mortgage broker, that solicitor, the buyer's agent via a podcast, right? Or via an Instagram page that your wife follows, but you bail the guy up in the toilets, whatever it might be. All of that is going to make it suck just a little bit less. And that's kind of what it's all about. That gets you back again camping, or that gets you into the house sooner.
Into life's biggest camping trip, your new house. Guys, I hope you enjoyed that podcast. We'll be back with a seller series not too far away, which is going to be an exciting one for the sellers. But in the meantime, he's Sam. I'm Chase. Cue the song.